All right, let's get right into it. We're going to tackle a huge question today using this really powerful framework from Hasidic thought. And the question is this: inside your head, who's actually running the show?
I mean, have you ever felt like you're in a total civil war with yourself? One part of you wants to be super disciplined, get up early, be focused, and then there's this other part that just wants to slam the snooze button, dive into some junk food, and maybe get a little too angry about something small. It's this feeling of an inner battle, right? And pretty much everyone feels it. So the source material we're digging into today puts it perfectly. It asks this incredible question. All these thoughts running to me, why do they pull me in? It's that pull, right? That magnetic force of all our inner noise. And that's exactly what we're going to try and unpack today. All right, let's dive in. The diagnosis here, coming from Hasidic thought, is, well, it's pretty radical, but it's also super practical. The idea is that we don't just have one self. Think of it like this. We're actually running two completely different operating systems at the same time. So you've got these two souls, and they have totally different agendas. On one hand, there's the animal soul. And look, it's not evil or anything like that. It's just our natural survival-driven self. Its whole focus is self-preservation, and it's always asking, what's in it for me? Then, on the other hand, you have the godly soul. Its whole game is about purpose, about connection. It's always asking, what can I give? This is the calm, observant part of you, the source of real compassion. Okay, so if we've all got both of these things inside us, then where does all the conflict come from? Why the inner war? Well, the source argues it all boils down to a really deep but simple case of mistaken identity. And this is the absolute core of it. The problem isn't that you have an animal soul. The real sickness, as the source calls it, is the belief that you are your animal soul. It's that moment when we just completely merge with our temporary thoughts, our fleeting emotions. That's when we start to feel disconnected, and that's where the suffering really kicks in. This mistaken identity thing, it sets off a whole chain reaction. It always starts with identification. You don't just feel anger, you start thinking, I am angry. You become it. And that simple thought creates this sense of separation from your true, calm core, your godly soul. And out of that disconnect, bam, that's where the symptoms pop up. Fear, anxiety, all that frustration. And this brings us to a really key evolution in this whole way of thinking. The source explains that, for a long time, the spiritual work was all about trying to refine the animal soul, to kind of tame it. But now the work is much more direct. The goal isn't just to manage it, it's to completely shift your identity away from the animal soul and to the godly soul. Right, so that sounds super profound, maybe a little abstract. You might be thinking, okay, great, but how on earth do I actually do that? And this is where it gets amazingly practical. The source gives us a tool, a single mental move that you can literally make in any moment. So how do you stop getting sucked in by all that inner noise? How do you actually break that cycle of identifying with every thought and feeling? And here it is, the breakthrough. The answer is almost the opposite of what you'd expect. You don't fight it. You don't wrestle with your thoughts or try to push them down. You just observe them. This is the whole technique right here. The second you can see the frustration, you're no longer in the frustration. You've created a little bit of space. And in that space, you become the calm, quiet observer. And that observer, the one who's doing the seeing, guess what? That is your godly soul. In that moment, you've just met your true self. This one little shift completely reframes your entire inner world. It takes you from being a victim, tossed around on a chaotic battlefield, to being a calm, clear leader in your own mind. I mean, it fundamentally changes your role. In the old reality, you're like the shifcha, which means the servant, just constantly getting pushed around by the whims of your animal soul. But when you learn to observe, you become the gevira, the master, the leader, who calmly guides everything. Your whole identity shifts from I am my feelings to I am the soul that observes my feelings. And this all connects to this beautiful reinterpretation of that famous biblical instruction, lech lecha, which is usually translated as go forth. But the source here reads it as a command to yourself. Go from who you think you are, this limited reactive personality we all walk around with, to who you truly are, that calm, deep, eternal soul inside. So that leaves us with a really practical question. Not for someday, but for right now, for tomorrow morning. When you wake up, who's going to be leading the way?
Your fear or your purpose?